Oscars. But first, did you know that homing pigeons played an important part in both World War I and II? More than 100,000 of them served alongside the British forces. They had a message delivery success rate of 95%, and they saved countless lives along the way. Here to tell us more about our unsung feathered heroes, please welcome manager of the Royal Pigeon Racing Association, Stewart Wardrop. Such pigeons. It's easily forgotten the vital role they played in both wars, isn't it?
Unfortunately, it is. Yes, they were real heroes in both First and Second World War. In the First World War, many thousands of them served with the troops on the front line. And
so they're in the trenches?
In the trenches, and in the baskets behind the lines, they'd be 6 pigeons in a basket like this.
So is this one of the...
This is an original one.
First World War, with a little thing to get your pigeon out that way.
And this one, this would have carried 2 pigeons, and this would have been strapped to the back of a soldier. So if they had to take a message away very quickly, they get a pigeon out, put a message on its leg, and away you go. And the reason it's blanked out is to stop the pigeons becoming frightened by the gunfire.
By all the flashes now, so they've got this Hessian just inside. Astonishing. So how far did they fly in the First World War?
In the First World War, relatively short distances, maybe 4 or 5 miles back to horse-drawn lofts running behind the lines. It wasn't until the Second World War they started going further afield.
So how could you be sure that they would know where to home to if they were kind of that
They were kept in horse-drawn lofts, and each of the lofts was painted in a particular colour, black and white stripes and so on. And pigeons, they go up into the air very quickly, and they'll see their loft and they're home straight there.
World War II then, how different was that?
World War II was really when racing pigeons, homing pigeons came into their own, because a lot of the success was bringing back messages from downed aircraft in the Second World War. Every bomber or reconnaissance plane that left the UK in the Second World War carried homing pigeons. And the green box you see is from an American bomber.
Right,
this one carried 4.
But Lancasters would have had something.
Yeah, Lancasters would have had the same and so on. And in the box would have been 4 pigeons. In the top here would have been a message pad and a map pad.
So here's a message pad. So the plane comes down.
Plane comes down. The navigator was always tasked with carrying the box out into the dinghy. The navigator would have an idea where the coordinates are. They'd fill in the details very quickly.
So they write a message. Here we are. Pigeon message. There we are.
Yeah.
So they'd write on here where they are, and they'd put it in one of these, and then fasten this to the pigeon's leg.
Let it go.
Let it go. So how far did they fly?
Hundreds of miles. There's one of the medals here I brought today is from a pigeon called Dutch Coast.
Yes.
And Dutch Coast was from a Lancaster bomber that was literally crash landed just off the Dutch coast, and it flew 288 miles home in just over 4 hours, and the crew were picked up by a seaplane.
So it's a bird saving lives. Yeah. Now this is the Dickin Medal. This is the Animal
Victoria Cross. Yeah, they're very rare. There's only ever been 64 awarded. 1 cat, 3 horses, 28 dogs, and 32 pigeons.
Gracious me, what an amazing story. So these really very rare medals then?
Very rare. And the other one I brought is from Mercury. And Mercury was one of 12 specially trained pigeons that went over to Denmark. And whilst it was in Denmark, the Danish resistance released 12 pigeons. Mercury was the only one to return. And it brought a message back that enabled Allied convoys to miss some German warships, so it saved hundreds of lives.
Pretty high survival rate, just at 95%.
Yeah, but what you've got to bear in mind is these pigeons were used repeatedly. Yeah. So the loss rate in the Second World War was extremely high. There was even a special section called the Special Pigeon Service, which would you believe, is a pigeon parachute.
What?
Yeah, because what used to happen is obviously a pigeon will only fly back from where it is. Yeah. So if you had to get a pigeon over to the French or the Danish resistance, they used to fly over in small reconnaissance aircraft.
They were fastened in this.
They were bundled up and they were thrown out of the airplane, and the French resistance would pick them up, put them in a basket until such time as they were required to be used.
There's a lot of paperwork here.
One of the crucial things I think, Alan, is the consequences for having a pigeon in your possession in the continent was the reason it's in English. It's an English translation of a German notice, but the person that was actually shot and killed for having a racing pigeon was a Channel Islander, and obviously the Channel Islands were occupied.
But over here, how did you sort of register to say you can use my pigeons in the war?
Well, basically the pigeons were called up, and we've got a copy of a conscription notice here. So when your pigeons were
inform you, your pigeons have just been called up.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh. And you had to have a license to keep them as well, because obviously you didn't want German spies sending pigeons back to Germany.
Yeah.
And pigeons actually had their own rations as well.
Oh gosh! Oh look, and on the back is when they've had it. You cross it off.
There you go.
No more corn for you. Who is this? We should introduce her.
This is one of my son's pigeons, and she's 1 year old, and she would have been roughly the same age as many of these brave pigeons would have been flying.
How long could they carry on flying? How old are the oldest ones?
Well, we've actually, funnily enough, we've just had a world record broken. The oldest racing pigeon so far is just 32 years old.
Good gracious!
Yeah. They live. Racing pigeons, they are pampered. They're vaccinated. Some of the lofts nowadays are air conditioned. They have automatic systems in them.
Not in those days.
Not in those days.
In a bomber.
No, not in those days. So
wonderful stories.
Brave animals.
Bless you. Thanks
great
very
story.
much for bringing them along and for all these wonderful things on these, as I say, animal VCs, the Dicking Medal. My thanks to Stewart Wardrop and, of course, his pigeons. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, let's go. It's spent the last 2 months gliding around the ice.